Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to another unboxing component video for Smash Up. This is the Munchkin's base game. So far they haven't released any expansions yet, but you never know what might happen in the future. So this is the same Smash Up game as all the other games, just with a Munchkin theme to it. If you're not familiar with Munchkin it's a started off as like a D&D style card game with a lot of backstabbing and lots of puns and jokes in their cards. Like lots of stuff have really funny meanings and things like that. It's supposed to be a humorous take on it. So they brought that humor to Smash Up. This is 100% compatible with any other Smash Up game, with the exception is there's two new types of cards in this. Two different extra decks of monsters and treasures. So if you're playing with these cards, you're going to have to include them in the game because they're bases, and some of the other cards refer to drawing monsters or doing treasures. But they're still compatible. It just means you have to have more things added. Unfortunately, I somewhere along the way before I made this video lost my instruction book. It's in my house somewhere, but who knows where amongst all my games. So I'm just going to kind of go through. But it's going to have 8 factions, just like the regular base game does. 20 monsters, 22 treasures, a token sheet, 16 bases, 2 for each set, and your rule book. But I will explain. I'm not going to go through and re-explain how the entire game works and everything's played. I am going to check out my first Smash Up video, or if I have how to play it at this point, check that out. But I'm just going to explain the new rules. But the base concept is you take 2 factions, 2 decks of 20 cards each, mash them together, make a 40 card deck. So you're going to have something like Wizards and Warriors, or Orcs and Elves. And you're going to make a deck, and then you play. You're playing minions and actions onto bases to score points. First one to 15 victory points wins the game. It's fairly simple as that. You are going to get some various VP tokens, so like little 1s and 5s with either coins or diamonds, or not diamonds, just gems. I don't have them all out, but there's a couple of them. So, before I actually jump into the different classes and all that stuff, I do want to point out the rules for monsters and treasures and all that. Just that way, if cards start referencing them, you already know. So, here's one of our bases. You've seen them before if you've seen the other game. Same thing, has a breakpoint, VP, and a thing. But it's also going to have a number here. It's going to say 1 monster. And they can say various amounts. Some might say 2, some might say 3, might say 0 possibly. So if you're playing with these, you have to include one of these monsters. I suppose you could just skip it and not play with the monsters at all, and then not use the monsters or treasures if you're going to just use this in a regular game and not do anything else, and that's fine. If you're not using any of the Munchkin classes or factions, you could probably just ignore this monster rule. But if we draw a monster from the monster deck. So it's going to have a special back on here, just so we don't get mixed up with everything else. It's going to have its own icon down here, just to keep it separate. And monsters are going to be treated as minions. So anything that affects a minion, moves a minion, destroys a minion, takes control of a minion, so on and so forth, will affect a monster. This particular one's called Web Troll. So it's going to have a number down here. It's going to can be anywhere from 1 to, I think, 5 is currently the highest. Not to say they might never make one bigger than that. They add more of these. So this adds to the breakpoint value. So if I played this monster on here, it would now be 24. As long as this monster's on here. If someone destroys this monster, drops it back down. If they take control of it, a bunch of different cards let you take control of someone else's minion, then you actually gain that 1 point, and it drops it back to 23, which is the normal base total, and then you get to add 1 point towards yours. And that's basically how they work. If he moves to a different base, you ignore it. Otherwise, they add to it, making the bases harder to score if there's monsters on there. The other thing the monster's going to have is they're going to have a treasure emote. This particular one's an easy one, so he has 0 treasure. Some of the other ones, so I don't want to go through them all right now. But we go, some of them have 2s and 1s. That's perfect. All 1s, 2s, and there's one of them that has 3s, like the big monster. So when this base scores, if, let's look at one of the ones that has 2 treasures, for example, just so we can show us. So here we have a Bigfoot, and just to show the difference. Still a minion, still a little Duck of Doom icon, but now it has 4, so that would have made this base 27 if you had to beat it. And then when it scores, each player, you draw treasures from you draw the number of treasures per every monster. So if there's more than 1 monster on there, there's 2, 3, 4 monsters on there, you add all the treasure emotes together, and you draw cards from the treasure deck. And then any player that has some representation of power, be it a minion or some other means, like if it's big in Japan that said some cards, action cards that gave points, or if there's something else that like you put points on there, you gain one of the treasures for how many. They start with whoever scored the highest. So they get the first draw, then the second highest gets the second draw, so on and so forth. So if you had 4 treasures and you had 4 players, each person has at least 1 monster on there. So like player 1, 2, and 3 will score your victory points. So they'll get your 5, 3, and 2, and then the first player will get your 5 victory points. The first treasure, pick of the first treasure card. The second player will get 3 victory points. Second pick of the treasure cards. Third player gets 2, his pick, and then the fourth player, as long as they at least had one point of monster on there, they would get that last treasure card, even though they didn't get any victory points. So that's the kind of the neat thing with the Monsters Act. There's going to be enough treasure over 4. It might be worth jumping in. Or if there's 4 and there's only 2 players, then the first person, second person, first person, second person. So everyone gets a little bit more. And then they have their own effects and stuff, which we'll look at when we go through the monster deck. And then, as for what the treasures are, is they're going to be another one. They're going to have just a yellow back, and the reason why they don't have a separate back is because once you gain them, they go into your deck, and there's going to be some that are minions, which are going to have a power and everything, work just like any other minion. And they're going to have their own treasure icon down here, or they're going to be various actions. So they're just going to go into your deck. The only other thing to point out about the monsters and the treasures, minions, and actions is they don't have their own faction. Nobody owns them. You can control them. You can have them in your hand controlling them, but you don't own them. So they won't refer to that as an owner. Alright, so we're going to jump into this, which also makes the Munchkins kind of interesting. Well, they're all going to have their own dividers. So I'm not going to show up every divider for each one, but they will have a divider. There's 8 different factions. There are 4 classes, and there are 4 races. So our classes are, we're going to get our races, we're going to get halflings. We're going to get elves. We're going to get dwarves. And we're going to get orcs. And then we're going to get 4 classes. We're going to get the warriors, the thieves, the mages, and the clerics. So the 4 classes are like 4 of the main ones in the base set of Munchkin. The races are a little bit different. I don't know if they were all... I don't think all of them were in the original, in the base one. But I think they picked those 4 because they're not anything that's been represented with the other sets of Smash Up, at least at the point when this set came out. Alright, so let's jump in and start looking at some of these. so other than the bases and all that stuff, they're going to play just like the regular thing. Although Munchkins adds, the game itself adds goofy names and puns, it doesn't add generally like gimmicky effects, which is really nice. That would be the one thing I'd be worried about with sometimes when they make like jokey type sets of games, is they add a good example is most Marvel games that add something with Deadpool. Deadpool plays in a jokey way, breaks the game type of way, like stuff that's at half power, or like looks at the pictures on the cards for colors or images, stuff like that. Like, it still functions in the game, but it takes you out of the way all the rest of the cards play. These don't do that. They're going to play just like any other set. So we're going to have 4 cards, or 3 copies of the Bargling. I say this, I'm not going to necessarily, there aren't going to be anything that might be a little odd. But mostly I think they play the correct way. So the Bargling here is going to say, if another player has more power than you, you may play an extra minion here. So it's definitely helpful. We have 4 copies of the Quarterling. It's even shorter. If this is your only minion here, you may play an extra minion on this base. So these guys are all about getting extra minions out. We have the Pestling. We have 2 copies. You may play an extra minion here. And we have the Shire Marshal Talon. You may play an extra minion on a base where another player has more power than you. So these guys like to get out their extra minions. So their actions are going to be small but tough. Playing your minion, ongoing. When this minion goes to the discard pile, place it on top of your deck instead. Spoiled Brats. Or Brats. Either way. Choose any number of minions from your discard pile, shuffle them, and place them on top of your deck. Sneakies? Play on a base. Your minions here are not affected by other players' actions. Out of nowhere, reveal cards from the top of your deck until 2 minions have been revealed. Place those minions into your hand, shuffle the rest of the cards back into your deck. Last call. Special. Play before a base scores. If there is a minion, play a minion there. Cancel that minion's ability until the end of turn. Yet another prancing pony, which is the poaching fun like hobbits, and prancing pony would have been the bar that they went to. Rude Awakening. Choose a base, reveal your hand, play all minions in it onto that base as extra minions, cancel their abilities till the end of turn. And basically their abilities, because a lot of them say playing extra minion. We have 2 copies of Lunch Rush. Play on a base. Ongoing, after each time you play a minion here, draw a card. And 2 copies of Unexpected Party. Play an extra minion on a base where you have no minions. Yeah, these guys could definitely be interesting mixed in with some other stuff. Like robots or zombies or from Cthulhu set, the Innsmouth. Things where you want to have a lot of the same things out, because they let you play a lot of extra minions quick. Or another one might be the Disco Dancers, because they have lots of stuff that lets you affect, when the cards affect them, they get to play more, so having more of them out, they affect your trigger, so getting more out quicker. There's some possibilities. So we have 2 bases. We have a Birthday Party, which has 1 monster. If you do not have a minion here, you cannot play a minion on another base. So you have to go to the Birthday Party first. And then we have the Subterranean Lair, which we looked at, which is also 1 monster. On your turn, if you have no minions on this base, you may play an extra minion here. Alright, those are our halflings. We're going to look at our elves next. So So we're going to have the Elf Help Guru. I have 4 copies of him, and they get their little hat. So it's Elf instead of Self-Help Guru. It's an Elf Help Guru. That's one of the jokes they make. Talent. Give all other players minions here +1 power till the end of turn. So this kind of also references the elves and munchkins, who has a special ability that says if you help out another player in battle, you gain a level. So the idea is, I kind of just based off this card, and maybe the rest of the elves would be the same way. It's gonna follow their ability from the Munchkin game, where it's like helping another player, you're gonna gain a bonus. So if they score a base quicker, you at least get 2 points out of it, or you get the second score. So maybe you won't win, but you can at least piggyback off of somebody else's quick victory. And if you have 4 players and you're helping each other player win, you might just possibly win by sheer getting enough high points from the second spot. Alright, let's see what else they can do. Maybe it's just that one card. We have Flower Child. You may give another player control of this minion until it leaves play. To take control of one of that player's minions of a power of 3 or less until it leaves play. So again, you can give them a card, and then you can steal one of theirs for a turn until it leaves play. We have 2 copies of the Lord of PRANCE. Talent. Play another player of your choice draws a card, then you get to draw a card. And the Fae Fighter. There we go. The ship there zoomed quite well, a little blurry. Ongoing. After another player plays a minion, you may place a +1 power counter on it to place a +1 power counter on one of your minions here. Yes, this is definitely an interesting set, or faction. Because they, here we got Runaway. Because, yeah, they give bonuses to the other players in gaining bonuses to themselves. So we have Runaway. Special. Play before a base scores. If you have a minion here, or a minion there, move one of your minions to another player's, and another player's minion from there to another base. So you get basically move yourself and someone else away. And this also plays to the elf ability where they get a bonus to running away. So we have Run Away More. Now there's more monsters chasing them. Special, play before a base scores. Move any number of your minions from that base to another base. We got Pumping Iron. Gold Peach Gem instead of Gold Gem. Choose another player. That player chooses a minion to gain +2 power till the end of turn. You choose a minion to gain +3 power till the end of turn. We have a Dancing Root. Shuffle. Or all players shuffle their discard piles into their decks. Draw a card. After you. Each other player draws a card. Draw a card for each player in the game, including yourself. Dungeon of the Blood, pretty thing. Blood, pretty things. That's funny. So they kept crossing out blood, and they finally just wrote pretty things. We have 2 copies of Trade. Draw a random card from another player's hand and place it in yours. Then place this card in that player's hand. You may play an extra action this turn. So you don't know what you're going to get, but then it's kind of neat, because then they can use it back to you to try and take a different card from you, or take something else. I kind of like these factions that have something where you get to take control of other players' stuff or take somebody else's card. Because then you get like a little interjection of something that's going to be counterintuitive what your deck does. Okay, we have a second copy of Pumping Iron. You gotta put those together, but we have Traveling Elf. Play on one of your minions' talent. Move this minion to another base. And finally, we have Helping Hands. Carry a set of hands. Special. Play before a base scores. If you have a minion there, choose another player. That player gets +2 total power. Your minion gets -2 to a minimum of 0. If that player is a winner, you get one of that player's VP. This is kind of getting works with the thing. You're helping them out. But you're going to get a VP anyhow. If they win. Alright, then our 2 bases are the Treehouse, which gets 2 monsters. After you play a minion here, choose another player. That player may draw a card. And Helper's Hollow, which also has 2 monsters. During each player's turn, other players' minions have +1 power here. Oh, I lost it. Alright, now we're going to look at our dwarves. We have a little gem in the corner. So we're going to have 4 copies of the Gem Grabber. Ongoing, if this minion has a treasure card on it, it has +2 powers. So this is the first one of our cards that specifically references treasure. So the other 2 you could have easily played without using the monsters or the treasure cards. This one you're going to have to use treasure, otherwise, monster and treasure. Otherwise, it's not going to be effective. So we have Gold Digger, 3 copies there. Talent, place a treasure card from the discard pot. From the discard pile into your hand. There's that one. And then Loot Lover. Ongoing, this minion has +2 power for each treasure card on it. And finally, the Dwarf King. Ongoing. When a treasure card on one of your minions goes to the discard pile, place it into your hand instead. And so it's specifying discard pile instead of your discard pile. So when treasures are used up, so if they either score on a base, if they're a minion, or they're an action, you play them, I believe then they go back into the just a general discard pile, rather than going into your discard pile. I'm just trying to see if it specifies that. Yeah, they each have their own deck and discard pile for when not necessary. When a monster or treasure leaves play, it always goes in the corresponding discard pile. And that's kind of neat, so that way you're not abusing the extra cards over and over and over. You're not gaining a bigger deck, you're not doing that. So once you use them, they go away. Alright, what actions do we have that are going to help us find some treasures? We have the hidden assets. Not very hidden. Place the top 3 cards of the treasure deck into its discard pile. Draw a card. You may play an extra action. They're going to help you get some of them in there to use. We have Salvage. Play before a base scores. Play a treasure card from the discard pile onto one of your minions there. Mine. Ours, dwarves only. Search the treasure deck for a card that can be played on a minion. Play it on one of your minions in extra action. Shuffle the treasure deck. We have Cunning Plan. He's hiding. It's funny. Throw a blanket over it. Special. Play before a base scores. Draw a treasure card. You may play it. Anything for money. Discard any number of cards. Draw 1 treasure card for each card you discarded. This is a great one. You get a bunch of cards. Cash out. Play up to 3 treasure cards from your hand as extra cards. 2 copies of Greed is Good. Draw a treasure card or place a treasure card from your discard pile into your hand. You may play an extra action. Not My Precious. Oh, the ducky broke. Destroying action play on main. If there's a treasure card, you may play an extra action. So it's actually neat because the way they work, they have enough stuff where you can just draw stuff from the treasure deck. Or throw stuff in the discard pile and get for the discard pile. You could potentially play just the treasure deck and not the monsters, and I think they would still be really useful. Just the monsters would potentially give you an extra chance to get it, but I think they're going to rely more on getting treasures themselves versus defeating monsters. So here we have the mines. 2 monsters. Minions here have +1 power for each treasure on them. And we have the treasure bath. 1 monster. After the first time, each turn that you play a minion here, draw a treasure card. So I would almost definitely for sure use like this treasure bath. Maybe even this mine, throw these in with if you're playing the dwarves. I mean, they generally recommend using the bases that go with the factions, just because they tie into their abilities. I don't usually figure that you have to do that, but that's probably ones if I'm playing with the dwarves I would include just to give them an extra chance to get treasures. So we have 4 copies. We're looking at some orcs now. Some dork orc. Ooh, that's a little bit of glare. Ongoing. This minion is not affected by other players' actions. He's too dumb. That's what they're telling us. We have 3 copies of the Hammer Slammer. Destroy a minion of 2 power or less. This one just kind of neat, because now right away we get 2 5s. Who has Copper Chopper. And then he has a talent that says do nothing. Which is just humorous. And we have Sword Lord, who's number 5. Ongoing, each of your other minions has +1 power. So, and I don't know if you kind of noticed this, but they're all sort of rhyming. We have Chopper, Sword Lord, Hammer, Slammer, and Dork Orc. They just kind of like rhyming names. It's kind of neat. So each other minions has +1 power. And since 3 of your minions, 2 of the other minions have 5, that's pretty good. We have Stalling. He's in the stall, and he's reading a dirty magazine. Playing a base. Each time another player plays a card, you may choose for your minions to not be affected by it. 2 copies of Dog Pile. Move one of your minions to a base where you have at least 2 minions. Special, you may play this before a base scores. You can move a couple other guys over there. We have Death Breath. Place a minion of power 4 or less on the bottom of its owner's deck. Good removal. We have Angry Pillagers. Special, play when a base scores. If you have at least 3 or more power than the runner-up, gain 1 VP. Too Tough. Play this on a minion. This minion is not affected by other players' actions. This is a good theme for these orcs. They're not going to be affected by other players. And Stay Down. Special, play before a base scores. If you have the highest total power here, other players cannot play or use special abilities. Gimme, choose an action on a minion. Destroy that minion and transfer the actions to one of your minions. And finally, we have Crush. Choose a base and a player who has fewer minions there than you. Destroy one of that player's minions. So the orcs are all about either not being affected by stuff, and then like having more than everybody else. Which I mean is kind of, I guess, sort of the game in general. If you want to have the most power, but like if they do, they get a lot of bonuses from having it. So we have a Garrison, 2 monsters. When this base scores, the total of all players' power here is 22 or more. Again, they want to have a lot. The player on the top 3 totals each gain 1 VP. And the Pits, 2 monsters. Minions here are not affected by other players' actions. It's kind of funny that it's like kind of in there, hidden all the way behind and sticking on the outside. I don't know what their goal was there. Alright, now we're going to look at our classes, which are just be more factions. We have the Warriors. So we're going to have a Taunter, 2 copies of that. or sorry, 4 copies of that. I don't know how to count. Minion, you may play a monster here. So that's kind of neat. Get an extra monster out that way. 3 copies of Berserker. Destroy a monster here with power equal than, or less than, or equal to this minion's. To place a +1 counter on this minion. So you gain a bonus, plus you get rid of them. Now, if you get rid of them beforehand, the monsters before the base scores, you don't gain the treasure. You only gain the treasure if the base scores, I believe. Let me double check that again. Oh, or by defeating monsters. Or by special effects. Sorry, so you only gain them by just defeating monsters. So the warriors are going to gain them. So that means, like, if you're playing dwarf warriors, they're going to be a really good combination. Because the warriors destroy monsters to gain treasures, and the dwarves will use the treasures. So here we have 2 copies of Star Player. Ongoing, after a monster here is destroyed, place a +1 power counter on this minion. And the big one is the Big Zero. Sponsorships available. This space for rent. Your message here. Talent. Destroy monsters here or play a monster here. Yes, they're going to do all sorts of stuff with the monsters. We have 2 copies of Dungeon Baked. The Dungeon of Mostly Ravenous Things. Instead of using a halfling. Play a monster on a base or destroy a minion of 2 power or less. The Shield of Ubiquity. Playing a minion. Ongoing, this minion has +2 power for each monster here. Let's cause a ruckus. Choose a base. Play 2 monsters there or destroy all monsters that are there but do not collect any treasure cards. We have Campaign. Each of your minions on your base that has a monster gains +2 power till the end of turn. We have a War Cry. Destroy a monster to add its power to a minion at the base until the end of turn. We have the Eternal Hero. Play on one of your minions. Ongoing. When this minion goes to the discard pile, place it and this action into your hand instead. Dumbbells. Playing a minion. Ongoing. This minion has +3 power. And then we have 2 copies of Cleave. Oh, that poor net troll. Destroy a monster. You may play any treasure you get from destroying monsters as extra cards. So the warriors are all about gaining power and destroying monsters, which makes sense for warriors. We have Bastion. Gains you 3 monsters. After you destroy a monster here, draw a treasure card. And the Gauntlet. 3 monsters, and after a monster here is destroyed, play a monster here. So yeah, these are going to definitely be a group that if you're going to play, you're gonna have to play with the extra cards. Alright, now let's look at some thieves. Let's do some sneaky stuff. So we have 4 copies of the Pickpocket. Let's say if there's another Pickpocket here, draw a treasure card. Pretty simple. We have Cat Burglar. Reveal any number of treasure cards from your hand. Place a +1 power counter on this minion for each one you reveal. Ooh, so the more treasure you have, the more powerful they're going to be. That's kind of cool. We have Fence. 2 copies. You may discard 2 treasures to gain 1 VP. So rather than using the treasures, we're just going to toss them. And then Master Thief, draw a treasure card. Alright, so you guys are all be about treasure cards as well. Clever Distraction. After a base scores, if you have a minion there, the winner loses 1 VP and you gain 1 VP. We can do a Mugging. Transfer an action play on a minion to one of your minions. All but they're thieves, so they're going to steal stuff. 2 copies of Potion Bandolier. Choose a minion, discard a treasure card to give that minion +3 power till the end of turn. 2 copies of Swipe, just draw a treasure card. And then we have Backstab. Discard a treasure card to destroy a minion of 3 power or less. Secret Stash. Play on a base. Ongoing, when this base scores, add 2 treasure cards to the reward. Smuggling. It's a chainsaw inside the cake. I like the in the back. It's called the checkpoint. Discard 2 treasure cards to gain 1 VP. Shuffle your discard pile back into your deck. Place this card on the bottom of your deck. And our final one is Strip Bear. Choose a treasure card and place it in your hand. So you're going to just gain treasure cards and then give them away for bonuses. Our 2 bases are the Coffers. 2 monsters. When this base scores, each player with a minion here draws a treasure card. And the Thieves Guild, the local 1313. 1 monster, after you play a treasure card on this base or a minion here, draw a card. So yeah, they could be definitely interesting. So when you're playing this, I would say if you just buy the base game, I would probably combine, you just combine your races and your classes. So like if you combine either the dwarves and the warriors or a dwarf thief, they could be really powerful at getting the treasures or the monsters versus maybe some of the other ones. But again, orc warriors would be really good because they're all about destroying stuff anyhow. So here we have some mages. So what should the mages do maybe compared to the base set wizards? So we have 2 copies of Scroll Shuffler. Discard a card to draw a card. We have 2 copies of the Happy Zapper. Minion. Of course it's a minion. Talent. Discard a card to give this minion +2 power till the end of turn. Special. Before this base scores, you may use that minion's talent. Or use this minion's talent. So you can discard stuff to quickly boost something up. We have 3 copies of the Wand Whiz. You may discard a card to play an extra action or minion. And then we have our big one, we have the Blaster Master. Discard a card to destroy a minion of power 2 or less. These are all about discarding to gain bonuses. So let's see what else they do. We have Mass Summoning. Play a monster at each base. Speed Reading. Discard a card to draw 3 cards. Portal to Beyond. Play on a base. Talent. Discard a card to play a monster here. 2 copies of Zap. Discard a card to destroy a minion of 3 power or less. We have Charm. Take control of a monster. Treat it as one of your minions until the end of turn. Some Enchanted Eden. Discard any number of cards. Play extra minion power 3 or less for each card you discard. Recover. Arcane Wisdom. Draw until you have 5 cards in your hand. Oh, got 2 copies of that. And then finally we have the Embiggen. Choose a minion. Discard any number of cards this minion gains +1 power till the end of turn for each card you discarded. So it's all about discarding for effects. You have to find a way to make that work. We have the Dimension Doors. 1 monster. After each turn after the first time you play a minion here, you may discard a card to play an extra minion here. And Mage's Tower. 1 monster. After you play a minion here, you may draw a card. So, the class that I think these would probably work the best with would either be, again, the dwarves might work really well because they're going to be drawing extra, treasure, so you can discard them. They might actually work really well with the halflings. Which the halfling mage sounds really weird. But because they're constantly getting to reshuffle and draw their extra minions, you can discard them a lot quicker. But let's look at our last class. We have our class / fraction. We have the cleric. So we have a holy roller. So you may shuffle a card from your discard pile into your deck. And we have the Turner. We have 3 copies of him. Destroy an undead monster here, or shuffle a random minion from your discard pile to your deck. So there are going to be monsters that specify if they're undead or not. We have the Deep Fryer. Special, after this base scores, you may move one of your minions from here to another base instead of the discard pile. And our big one is we have the Cardinal. Talent, if your discard pile has at least 5 cards, place 2 of them chosen at random in your hand. So, like resurrection cards. We have the Collection Plate. Place 2 random cards from your discard pile into your hand. Remove Curse. Destroy an action on a base or a minion. The Duck Be Gone curse removal. We have the Curse of Imprisonment. Play on a minion. This minion loses its abilities. Been and Gone. Play on a base. Ongoing. After another base scores, you may move one of your minions from there to here instead of the discard pile. Word of Recall. Choose a random action from each other player's discard pile. You may play one of them as an extra action. Return the others. Curse of Uselessness. Play it on a minion. This minion adds no power to the base it's on. So that could be nice for some cards. Good Habit. Good Habits. All minions gain +1 power till the end of turn. And we have 2 copies of Join the Club. It's going to beat you with a club. Choose a base. All minions there get +1 power till the end of turn. Yes, it does have a lot of discard shuffling in their characters, their minions, and then all their cards are just kind of just messing with other players' stuff. Healing, getting stuff. So we have the Hotel of Holiness. There's Excommunication at 5 p.m., Exorcism at 6, Bingo at 7. 2 monsters. After this base scores, place minions here to the top of their owner's decks in any order instead of the discard pile. Interesting. So you get your minions back. And we have the Wackagool Cemetery. 3 monsters. After an undead monster is played here, place it in the bottom of the monster deck. So yeah, these guys are kind of interesting with reshuffling. They actually work really well with the mages. And that's the thing. If you're playing Munchkin, you might be like, well, I have to have a race, I have to have a class. That kind of makes sense. But the way Munchkin works is, typically that's how it is. You start with nothing. You have no class. It's the joke they always make. And you usually don't have a race either. But you draw either a race or class during the game. But you become Super Munchkins, and you can have, or you can have dual classes. You can have 2 races or 2 classes. So this actually kind of fits in the theme of that. I kind of wish they made another set of this by now, just because it would have been neat to have more classes and more races to mix and match. Alright, let's look at our monsters quick. Here are big old monsters. Get their own divider. So we're going to have a few copies of the Web Troll. We have 4 of them. And if you've looked at him before, he's going to give you add 1 to your breakpoint. 0 treasure, but he says play another monster here. So you can immediately play another monster. We have the Poltergeist, which is a poltergeist chicken poultry. There's a joke in there. So 2, and he has 1 treasure. Undead, so is that undead we're looking for. Ongoing, this monster has +1 power for each other undead monster here. And this should be another reason why it'd be awesome if they made another set, because if you had another set of monsters, you could have some more undead, some very different effects and things. So we have 3 copies of the Hippogriff, who gives us 3, 1 treasure, ongoing. Before his base scores, destroy the random non-monster minion here of power 3 or less. We have, we'll do that next. So 2 copies of Bigfoot, who gives you 4, does 2 treasures. Ongoing, if this is the only monster here, it has 3 power. Set those aside. So we're going to have 3 copies of the Ghoul, who's going to give us 3 to the breakpoint, 1 treasure, undead. Ongoing, if this monster is destroyed, place it on top of the monster deck. We have 2 copies of King Tut, who does 4, adds 2 treasures, undead. Ongoing, after this base scores, the winner discards a card, gets cursed. They are, our 2 bosses is we have the Knight of the Living Dead, play on words there. So he has 5, 2 treasures, undead, ongoing. This monster has +1 power for each other monster here. And then our big one is the Plutonium Dragon, which is a famous Munchkin monster, who has 5, 3 treasure, ongoing. At the end of each player's turn, destroy all minions here with power 2 or less. So you have to play something big to fight him. Alright, then what we have left are our treasures. So let's look at our treasures. So these are all different, which is actually really cool. But again, it'd be neat to have more treasures. Like, I would love if they made Munchkin expansions for this, but it's been a few years, so I don't think they're going to. So we have a minion you can get is the Dwarf Hireling. Hirelings are little extra guys that help you out in the regular Munchkin game. So you may play a card from the treasure discard pile on this minion as an extra action. We have the Halfling Hireling. So it'd be kind of neat if they had the Elf and Orc, just to like complete the set at least. You may play an extra minion. And then we have the Tiger Steed, which are minions, were cards that got added in one of the Munchkin expansions to let you use animals. You may destroy a minion here of 2 power or less. So this is the only 3 minions we got, which again would have been neat if they had more minions. Alright, so we're gonna have a Potion of Halitosis. Choose a base and player. That player moves one of his or her minions from that base to another. Special. You may play this before a base scores. You must choose that base. So you can't move someone to that base. You have to basically move them away from that base. The Jetpack of Anachronism, or Anachronism, depending on how you pronounce it, which is basically saying like something that goes against what makes sense for history, like having rockets in like medieval times. Play on a minion, ongoing. When this minion goes to the discard pile, place it in its owner's hand instead. We have the Potion of Paralysis. Or Paralysis. Paralysis. Special. Play before a base scores. Until the end of turn, cancel the effect of all cards or bases on minions on the bases. So potions are another big Munchkin thing. Lots of times they're like one-time use effects that you can throw into combat. Which is basically what these are doing. So you have the Potion of Cowardice. Play on a minion. This minion has -2 power and loses all abilities. We have a Bag of Caltrops. Play on a base. When another minion's player of 3 power or less is played here, destroy this treasure and that minion. The Wand of Dowsing. Draw 2 treasure cards. Shuffle this card and a treasure card discard pile into the treasure deck. The Chest of Holding. Play on a minion. Ongoing. This minion has +1 power for each treasure card on it. The Boots of Running Really Fast. Playing a minion, talent, move this minion to another base. We have a magic missile. Playing a minion, talent, place this card on the bottom of the treasure deck, destroy a minion here of power 3 or less. We have the wishing ring, which is a staple for, I think, every single Munchkin set, whether it's the D&D one or if it's one of the other various versions. Which basically lets you nullify something happening to you. But this is a little bit different. Just lets you gain 1 VP, but you place it on the bottom of the treasure deck. We have the Dungeon Rulebook, the 5th edition even. Destroy an action on a minion or a base. Especially, you may play this before a base scores. The Potion of Redundancy Potion. Playing a minion, ongoing. This minion has the ability talent. Use the talent of another minion. It's kind of funny. Another iconic card is the Chainsaw of Dismemberment with Orcs Be Gone written on it. Playing a minion, this minion has +2 power. Boots of Butt Kicking. Playing a minion, you may play an extra action. This minion has +1 power. Potion of Idiotic Bravery. 1 minion gains +3 power till the end of turn. The Buckler of Swashing. So instead of a swashbuckler, he's got a buckler, which is an elbow pad that you can fight with. Playing this minion cannot be destroyed. We have the KNEEPADS of Allure. Attracting them. Playing a minion, all minions here gain +1 power. We have the Crossbow, which is a bow that is mad. He's cross. Choose a base and a faction. All minions of that faction gain +2 power till the end of turn. And our final treasure card will be the Potion of Line Cutting Special. Play this after a scored base's treasures are revealed, but before they're distributed. Place one of those treasures in your hand. It's just kind of neat. You gotta steal it. And yep, you gotta use it early. Alright. So that was our treasures. Alright, so that is what we have for Smash Up Munchkin. Definitely, as I said, you can mix and match this with other sets without too much at issue. The dwarves and the thieves both rely on treasures, and the warriors rely on monsters. The other ones didn't specify anything, so you could really use them in any set, and even the dwarves, you could just have that treasure deck. Even the thieves, you could probably just have a treasure deck sitting around and not have to deal with the monsters. Or you could just throw the monsters in a regular game without using anything else and add that treasure, whether you use a treasure deck or not. It just makes all the bases higher. It definitely would be cool if they added another set to this. Even if they did, like the Munchkin does, like, it started off as Dungeons and Dragons, which is magic, wizards, all this stuff. But then it's jumped into a ton of other different genres, space, superhero, gothic, all that stuff. So even if they made, like, tiny expansions, like the little tiny 4-box sets that had, like, one from each couple of the different bigger sets, that would be even cool, too. But I can see where that would run into an issue, because if you did, like, Star Munchkin, you'd start running into probably crossing over, like, the stuff that's in the cease and desist that with the Star Trek and that, and Star Wars, and some of the other ones. That'd be the only problem, is you almost have to start making this its own game, or you're going to start running over the same type of themes that are in the other Munchkin games, or the other Smash Up games. Alright, that's what I got for today. See you guys later. Bye.